After casting Asia into the dimensional gap, Shalba Beelzebub kills Diodora for his failures. Distraught and enraged by Asia's demise, Issy's Juggernaut Drive is activated and he engages and kills Shalba in a duel. Unable to transform back after defeating Shalba due to the incomplete state of his transformation, Issei is stuck in his Juggernaut form. Meanwhile, Wali's team arrives and brings Asia back from the dimensional gap, much to Zenobia's happiness. After Wali explains that music has the ability to calm a dragon's rage, Irina appears with a project iron device from Odin and it plays the Opie Dragon song. With the help of the song, Wali's halving abilities and Riot's breasts, they are able to restore Issei to his human form. Overjoyed by Issei's return, Rios, Akeno and Konko embrace him as Asia's wakes up. The team then decides to return to the real world, but not before Issei collapses from exhaustion. Sometime later, Issei and Asia compete in the three-legged race at Ko and win. After the race, Asia kisses Issei and tells him that she loves him, causing him to faint in bliss. Upon learning that the group's sophomores will be leaving for a 2-day school trip to Kyoto, Asia, Konko, Akeno, and Rios all try to sleep with Issei. During class the next day, Konko pulls Issei aside and requests that she perform healing sage arts to help him recover the life force that he lost as a result of activating Juggernaut Drive in his fight with Shalba Beelzebub. She even goes as far as to request that they perform bedroom arts to further improve his recovery, which requires its participants to have sex with one another, but is interrupted by Rios. Later on, after a dinner hosted at the Gremory family estate, Rios and Issei encounter Saravd, heir of the Bell family and a combatant of an upcoming rating game between the Bell and Gremory households. Saravd requests that he and Issei spar together, to which the latter agrees. In the fight, Saravd proves himself to be an immensely powerful opponent, managing to damage Issei's armor with his bare hands. Nevertheless, Issei is able to withstand the attacks and deliver some of his own, earning Sarog's praise. In an attempt to spur Issei on, Asia asks that he be allowed to touch Riot's breasts in order to power up, which Rios begrudgingly agrees to, though Issei is more than happy to do so. An amused Saravd decides to end their sparring match before he gets the chance, stating that they'll finish their fight in the rating game. On the day of their school trip, they're having some fun with Issei on his bed. Rios sends the sophomores off on the train, and even gives Issei a goodbye kiss, stating that she'll feel much more lonely than she lets on. On the train ride to Kyoto, Issei follows Azazel's advice to inject his consciousness into his sacred gear so as to unlock a safer alternative to the Juggernaut Drive. After agreeing to lend Zenobia his sword after he was forced to hand her sword over to the church's alchemist, Issei and Kiba make plans for Kyoto in case something comes up. After a few attempts to make contact with the previous Red Dragon hosts, he manages to speak with Elsha, the strongest female host of the boosted gear. She passes him a magical box which contains the potential of the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei manages to open it, but the potential inside jumps out and disappears. Immediately afterwards, Matsuda begins to grope Motohama's chest and says he has an uncontrollable urge to grab chests. The train finally arrives at Kyoto and the group encounters another person groping chests uncontrollably, before being held back by some onlookers. At the hotel, which is owned by the Gremory family, Rosweiss and Azazel brief the class before heading to their rooms, in which Issei gets the worst one. Issei's group enjoys sightseeing at the various attractions of Kyoto. However, at Fushimi Inari Taisha, Issei is suddenly ambushed by a group of yokai led by a young fox girl named Kunu, who demands the return of her mother Yasuka. Irina, Zenobia and Asia arrive to support him. After the four fight them off, Issei reports their encounter to Azazel and Rosweiss upon returning to the hotel. In the evening, Issei attempts to peep at the girls showering but is stopped by Rosweiss. After a brief struggle, Issei uses dress break on her. Back home, Rios, Akeno and Konko, all missing Issei, have a conversation as to why he prefers Riot's breasts over the others. During a dinner hosted by Serafall, which involves the Orkan Student Council, she informs that she is there to forge an alliance with Kyoto's yokai. However, their leader, a nine-tailed fox named Yasuka who is Kunu's mother, has gone missing and the Chaos Brigade is the prime suspect. After realizing this, Issei vows to protect the city of Kyoto. After a day of training to prevent being attacked again, Issei and his friends go sightseeing around Kyoto. After sending a picture of Aisha and Zenobia in front of a shrine to Rias, Akeno calls Issei telling him that Konko noticed that the other people in the photo are disguised fox yokai. Immediately afterward, they are met by the fox yokai, who bring them to Kunu. After apologizing for her recklessness and detailing the investigation conducted by the yokai to locate Yasuka, Kunu pleads with the group to help locate her, which they accept. Still missing Issei, Rias, Akeno and Konko begin to wonder how the team are doing in Kyoto. Back at the hotel, Aisha visits Issei in his room and they end up hiding in the closet to avoid Matsuda and Motohama. Aisha takes the opportunity to kiss Issei after seeing Rias kiss him the day they left, but is interrupted by Irina and Zenobia. Upon being teased by Zenobia, Aisha passes out from the shock. Zenobia and Irina then both enter the closet where Zenobia and Aisha, after waking up, try to have sex with Issei, but Roswise thwarts them. The next day, the school trip continues with a visit to Arashiyama with Kunu acting as their local guide after volunteering to do so. In the meantime, Azazel and Roswise are relaxing at a bar where the latter ends up drunk and depressed after a single drink. Issei's group meets up with Kiber after lunch and they go visit the Tojutsuko bridge together. On the bridge, they are suddenly enveloped in fog and sucked into a parallel dimension. Kunu informs that this is exactly how her mother disappeared. Azazel is suddenly attacked by a beam of light as Cao Cao and his hero faction announce their appearance. Cao Cao reveals that the hero faction, all of whom possess powerful sacred gears, kidnapped Yasuka, revealing that she would be the subject of a malicious experiment. He then requests that Issei and his group alongside Azazel engage in a battle against them. After using Bubilingual and Dress Break on 3 hero faction members, the team meets Siegfried, a devil purger and another member of the hero faction, who has 3 arms for each of his legendary swords. While fighting Azazel, Cao Cao reveals his motives, wanting to determine how far humans can go fighting other supernatural races. As their battle continues, Issei's team are aided by a mysterious yet cheerful witch named Le Fay Pendragon, Arthur's sister and another member of Wali's team, who ends up destroying part of the bridge and a heavily intoxicated Roswise, who indiscriminately attacks Cao Cao and his group to no effect before she passes out. The hero faction flee and begin their preparations for their experiment, Cao Cao states will take place at Nijo Castle that night. Some time later, the Citri and Gremory households head out after formulating a battle plan. Meanwhile, after fighting off an old Satan faction attack in the underworld, Rias has an uneasy feeling about Issei and the group. Before leaving, Azazel gifts Issei with a mysterious red orb that he found after subduing a molester outside the hotel. Drake identifies the orb as the potential that Issei received from Elsha earlier, but cannot identify exactly what it is or what it will do. On their way to Nijo Castle, Kunu joins their team despite having been ordered to stay behind. A few moments later, Issei and Kunu are pulled into a separate dimension by another member of the hero faction, one who possesses a sacred gear that allows the user to manipulate shadows. Issei dons his balance breaker, but fails to land any blows against his opponent's balance breaker, who in turn immobilizes him and prepares to deal a killing blow. As Issei and the hero faction member battle, Issei discovers that he is weak to fire and severely damages him using Dragon's Fire. The faction member reveals that his loyalty for Cao Cao stems from him making his life better. Despite Issei saying that Cao Cao is just using him, he doesn't listen and attempts to attack Issei, who defeats him with a single punch. Finally reuniting with his friends at Nijo Castle, they find Yasuka. But she doesn't seem to recognize Kunu before transforming into an extremely powerful 9-tailed fox. The hero faction then reveal their plan to lure Great Red into the human dimension by combining Kyoto's chi and the yukai's power and kill it after being branded a nuisance by Office. Zenobia uses her modified Durandal, now named X Durandal, which was fused with a Excalibur via alchemy to kill the hero faction, which obliterates the castle and part of the city but fails to kill the hero faction. Georg starts the experiment, which combines several forms of magic and Yasuka's power to lure Great Red. The hero faction then pick what members of the team they want to fight. Saji, in his Dragon King form called Retro Promotion, handles Yasuka, while Kunu and Asi take care of each other on Issei's orders. Back home, Rias shows off her new lingerie she bought to impress Issei when he gets back. Back in Kyoto, Kiba and Zenobia fight Siegfried, who shows off his balance breaker, giving him 3 extra arms and 6 swords. Irina fights Jean, whose balance breaker is a dragon made out of holy swords. Rosweiss fights Heracles, whose balance breaker fires missiles out of his arms. While Issei and Cao Cao fight without Cao Cao showing off his balance breaker. Despite severing Cao Cao's left arm with Ascalon, Cao Cao uses Phoenix Tears to heal himself. Cao Cao's teammates arrive, each carrying unconscious members of Issei's team. Heeding Elsha and Azazel's advice telling him to embrace his identity despite his flaws, Issei releases his potential, which projects shadows of the people of Kyoto the orb managed to possess. The shadows form a summon circle, where Issei summons a sleeping Rias into the battle. After summoning Rias to Kyoto, Issei uses Rias' nipples as a switch to unleash his full potential and transports her back home. Elsha and Belzard, the strongest male host of the Red Dragon Emperor, inform Issei that they are leaving for good, but give him some words of encouragement before doing so. Issei uses his new power, named Illegal Move Triena, to attack Cao Cao, who barely manages to defend with his spear. However, Issei, not adapted to his new power, severely drains his stamina and abilities, so he is unable to keep up. Suddenly, Sun Wukong and his dragon Yu Long appear through a gap in the mist. While Yu Long assists Saji with Yasuka, Sun Wukong easily overpowers the hero faction, which forces them to flee. Issei launches one final attack at the retreating Cao Cao, which takes out his right eye. Cao Cao vows revenge on Issei and tells him to get stronger before fleeing. After exhausting Yasuka, she falls unconscious despite the spell being lifted. With Sun Wukong's help, Issei uses Bubilingual and helps Yasuka turn back to normal and regain consciousness. The next day, Yasuka expresses her thanks to Issei's group and bids them farewell at the train station. Kunu also requests that Issei come back to Kyoto soon to visit, which he promises to do. After returning home, Issei apologizes for not keeping Rias and the rest of the group updated on the events in Kyoto. Azazel informs him that the school festival is coming up and that Rebel Phoenix would be transferring to Ko Academy soon as a first-year student, although Konko is not pleased with this development. Rias also informs the group that they have to prepare for their rating game with Saravd Bell. While training, Sequara Agas informs Saravd that Issei has gained new powers, but instead of being daunted by it, Saravd is pleased to hear that Issei has gotten stronger. While appearing on an Underworld Kids show depicting Issei saving Rias, Irina asks Issei to zip up her dress, after she volunteered to fill in for the narrator after being injured. Falling in an awkward position after her dress ripped, Irina expresses her desire to have sex with Issei and bear his child before being interrupted by Zenobia, Asia, Akeno and Konko, who also try to have sex with him until Rias forces them out. Later, Issei hears one of his fans upset about not being able to meet him after tickets for both meeting events sold out. Issei goes to the boy, who introduces himself to him and autographs his cap, but his manager warns him not to do that again as the studio can't handle a mass of fans. Witnessing his good deed, Rias reminds about how special it was for the fan. Venelana and Milikas then greet the two and tell them about how popular the show is, while Enelana expresses concern as to why Issei addresses Rias as president and not her name, but Issei says that he will still protect Rias with his life, although neither he nor Rias can explain their personal feelings for each other out to fear. At school, Rias and Issei encounter Ravel trying to get accustomed to school life. Noticing her inexperience around the other students, they ask Konko to be Ravel's friend. She nonchalantly agrees, although they immediately start insulting each other. They also try to get Gaspar to be her friend as well, but is too afraid to. For the festival, the ORC's job is turning the old school building into a mansion based around the occult. Kiba asks Issei if he's thought about the rating game, who offers to train with him after revealing that he has been theorizing ways to beat Saravd. Azazel arrives and speaks to Drake about finding a counselor, having been depressed since Kyoto because of Issy's perverted nature. Rios and Issei are requested to a medical facility in the Citri domain by Sarog's butler without his knowledge, where they meet Miss LaBelle, Sarog's mother and Rios' aunt. Rios explains that, unlike the rest of the family, Sarogd wasn't born with demonic powers. Blaming his wife, Sarog's father forced his wife and son into exile. Despite this, Misla tried to give her son the best life possible until she fell sick with demonic illness. A rare and potentially fatal disease that only affects devils. The butler requests that Issei use Bubilingual to awaken her, but fails, even with his balance breaker. Sarogd arrives and thanks them for their help. Despite failing to cure Misla, Issei and Sarogd then tell each other that they won't go easy on them when the rating game arrives, but promises nothing personal. During the car ride home, Rios nearly mentally tells herself her true feelings for Issei. While training for the rating game, Revel, having overheard Issy's conversation with Kiba, suggests transferring a cannon blast instead of going full on with it, telling them that it's more effective for the team's safety and chances of winning. However, Rios tells them about certain rules approved by the higher-ups which may hinder that from happening. The next day, Saji announces that the Citri house has a rating game the same day as the Gremory house before they head to a televised press conference about the upcoming fight. When the reporters ask Issei questions about his obsession with Rios' breasts, to her embarrassment, he struggles to answer. So Sarogd suggests that he'll become even stronger if he sucks on them, shocking everyone. After the conference, Sarogd appreciates Issy's confidence before leaving. Back home in the sauna, Rios flirts with Issei and asks him what she is to him on a personal level. The two share a passionate makeout session and almost have sex until Issei calls her President instead of her name, greatly upsetting her. The next day, Gaspar says Konko and Revel have started to bond, if only slightly. And Azazel tells him about how jealousy can bring out the worst in people, especially females. Issei also gives Gaspar some male advice, boosting his confidence. Azazel reveals that he has been appointed the Gremory House's advisor for the rating game, while Sarogd has Dihauser Belial, the head of the Belial House and a long-standing rating game champion. Azazel shows them who they're facing while Rios goes over their battle tactics and countermeasures. While still preparing for the festival, Ravel's mother appears as a hologram to check up on Ravel adapting to her new school and tells Issei to protect her from the evils of the human world, which he agrees to, stunning Revel, while also reminding him that she's available. When a shocked Rios walks away, she asks Issei if he'll protect her and the others too, replying that he'll die for her along with the others. Rios again asks what she is to him personally, but when he says the word president, she runs away crying. Asia runs after her, leaving a confused Issei behind. Oblivious to what he did wrong, the group scolds Issei, leaving him to ponder over what he's done. After realizing that Issei is unable to understand Rios' feelings because of Reiner's betrayal, Akeno, Konko and Asia successfully help him regain his self-confidence by professing their love for him. As the day of the rating game arrives, they encounter Hades and Riza, the latter of which telling Rios to believe in the group as she is the reason they are all together in the first place. He also wishes Issei luck and tells him to watch over Revel. Serex requests to meet Issei, who shows him a video of his fans cheering him on as well as letters sent to him, telling him to fight for their and his dreams. As the rating game begins, the rules are explained. Each king will roll a die, with the accumulated total of both dice deciding the members of the match based on their evil peace level. Pawns are worth 1, knights and bishops are worth 3. Rooks are worth 5 and queens are worth 9 points. The point system is also applied to family members, using Issei as an example who sits on 8 points because of his 8 pieces. The teams are then given 5 minutes to select their participant and both teams will only have 1 vial of Phoenix Tears to use anytime. After a total of 3, a bishop or knight can only be used for the first round. Kiba is eventually chosen to go out for Rios' team, while Sarogd has also chosen a knight named Beruka Furkas. Using his balance breaker, Kiba defeats Furkas in the first round, earning the Gremory team the victory. Rolling the dice, they are accumulated to 10, where Rosweiss and Konko are sent out together, facing a knight named Liban Crocel and a rook named Gondoma Balam. Crocel uses his sacred gear to increase the gravity around Rosweiss, rendering her immobile. Despite that, Rosweiss is able to free herself by teleporting Gondoma in her place. Although she releases a powerful attack, Liban survives and traps both girls in his gravitational field. Gondoma, who also survived, emerges from the ground and crushes Konko. Although Rosweiss eventually wins, the Gremory house loses their first piece, and Issei vows to hold on to his anger for when his time comes. The total comes to 8 and Saravd publicly chooses his bishop, Coriana and Rialphus. While Issei goes out after Saravd reveals he chose Coriana specifically to fight Issei. Coriana attempts to distract Issei by stripping for him, but he wins after she tries to take off her panties first, which according to Issei breaks the rules of stripping. The total is once again added to 8, but because Issei cannot be sent out again, Zenobia and Gaspar, wanting to avenge Konko, volunteer to go out, where they face a rook named Ladora Bune and a bishop named Mistita Subnok. Subnok uses a sacred gear which nullifies Zenobia's powers. In response, Gaspar attempts to remove the curse by pouring Issei's blood in a magic circle and goes out to fight to buy her some time. Despite being thrashed around by Ladora, Gaspar uses Issei's advice and loyalty to the Gremory household to withstand the attacks, eventually buying enough time for Zenobia to recover and obliterate Subnok and Bune, although Gaspar sacrifices himself in the process. With 7 members left on the Grey Mori team and only 3 left on Sarog's, the total is added to 9 and Akeno, being the queen, volunteers to go out, where she faces Sarog's queen, Quisha Abaddon. The fight ends with Akeno's defeat due to Abaddon's ability to absorb opposing attacks and redirect them to wherever she wishes. With the next total being 12, Saravd goes out to fight Kiba, Zenobia and Rosweiss, who volunteered in Issei's place in an attempt to wear Saravd down. On the battlefield, Saravd takes off his constraints, causing his fighting aura to significantly increase. He takes down Rosweiss with a single punch, Alt-How. It's later revealed to be a perfectly planned ruse. The Rosweiss that Saravd knocked out of the arena was a mimic created by an Excalibur sword which she borrowed from Zenobia. Falling into the water was also part of her plan. However, the real Rosweiss is eliminated by Saravd shortly after. Although Kiba and Zenobia manage to sever Sarog's right arm, they are defeated when he overpowers and eliminates them. Then is forced to use the Phoenix Tears to repair his arm. After the total adds to 9, Issei is sent out to fight Quisha. Issei, angered at the demise of 6 of his friends and wanting to avenge Akeno, uses his balance breaker to eliminate Quisha instantaneously, which stuns both Asia and Rias, although Azazel discovers that Saravd eliminated Quisha himself, knowing Issei's attack would have killed her anyway. Saravd proposes that they drop the rules and skip to the grand finale so he and his remaining pawn Regulus can fight the remaining members of Gremory House. Rias agrees to the conditions and Issei vows to take Saravd down as he wouldn't be able to face his friends otherwise. Starting the battle, Issei and Saravd start throwing punches, but Issei boosts his ability to inflict more damage onto Saravd, while Rias watches as Regulus turns into a golden Nemean lion, one of the 13 legendary Longinus's, whose master was murdered and found by Ser. Aorg after Regulus destroyed his master's killers. Issei and Saravd continue to trade blow for blow, where Issei discovers that his right arm punches are slower and less damaging than the left thanks to Kiba and Zenobia severing it, giving him an advantage. Unfortunately for Rias, she has become too weak from blood loss caused by Regulus to have an advantage over him, so Issei pours the Phoenix Tears onto her to ensure she survives. At Regulus and Issei's suggestion, Saravd uses Regulus' power to transform into his balance breaker, Regulus Ray Leather Rex. Saravd and Issei fight once again, with Saravd immediately getting the upper hand. Although he is reluctant, Issei knows that he has to use the Juggernaut drive if he wants to have any chance of defeating Saravd. While arguing, one of Albion's former hosts interrupts them and reminds Issei of when he inserted Albion's gem into his boosted gear and aids him by combining both red and white dragon abilities together. In addition to this, with the assistance of his friends, fans, his love for Rias and his dreams, Issei upgrades his scale mail armor into its queen form. After activating the form, called Cardinal Crimson promotion due to the color of the armor. Remembering his promise to Sir X to fight for his and the children's dreams as well as the dreams of the Gremory family, Issei publicly confesses his love for Rias before he and Saravd engage in a fistfight duel, exchanging blow for blow. Although Drake reminds him that he has hardly had time to adjust to his new form, Issei fights through it and manages to overpower Saravd. Despite Sarog's impressive willpower, Issei uses his Crimson Blaster and severely damages Saravd, but he manages to get up again thanks to his vision, a world where skill and hard work is valued instead of abilities. Saravd and Issei once again trade blows, and although he has newfound respect for Saravd, Issei continues to keep fighting to defeat a man like him. Physically drained, Issei loses his armor, but Regulus says that Saravd has lost consciousness, though he enjoyed the chance to fight Issei even if it meant putting his dream on the line to do it. Realizing Sarog's nobility, Issei embraces Saravd before he is eliminated. After winning the rating game, Issei and Saravd are taken to a hospital, where they say it was the best battle they've ever had before Sir X arrives to tell them that the higher-ups are so satisfied with the results, that the general populace expects great things from them both. He also tells Issei about a plan to promote Issei to a mid-ranking devil, along with Kiber and Akeno. Saravd then encourages Issei to confess his love for Rias in private from the bottom of his heart so that she'll know that he's not lying about his feelings, promising that if things go south, he'll be there for him. In the aftermath, the festival takes place and Azazel informs him that although Sarog's backers have pulled their support from him, his popularity and power have remained largely the same. He also tells Issei to focus on his own problems like expanding his queen form. That night, while alone with Rias, Issei finally calls her by her name and professes that he's been in love with her since they met. Crying tears of joy, Rias says she's waited to hear him say her name for a long time and also tells him that she loves him more than anyone else. They almost kiss only to get interrupted by their friends, who were eavesdropping. Although they're happy for them, the girls say it won't stop them from trying to seduce Issei. After they leave, Issei and Rias share their first kiss as a couple. In the underworld, Azazel and Saravd are talking about how Issei confessed to Rias and how happy they are together. Sarog's mother regains consciousness and tells him about how proud she is of him and that they finally get to go home together, although Azazel is convinced that Issei had a hand in it. Azazel recalls when he confronted Indra over his association with Cao Cao. Indra replies by saying he's known Cao Cao since he was young as well as his alliance with Hades, but chose to keep it secret from everyone. Azazel chooses to ignore it for now and walks off.